Okay, so I got my oven glove. I did clean the outside of this, I'm pretty sure. But I guess I'll do it again just in case. Then I'm gonna oil this up. So right now this is just basically refrigerator cold. It's not like super cold. I'm actually trying to wipe the dirt off because I can see some of the fibers from the paper towel on it. So I'm trying to get as much of that off as I can. At least off the race, because that's the most important part right now. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing to this. And I did clean the inside of this with a paper towel already. Okay, so I see okay, here. The print is on this side. So I'm going to try to actually heat the inside ring, not the outside one, but it's such a broad heat that it's going to heat both of it anyways. And actually I've got my punch, so I'll be back. Okay, I'm just double checking the race. Then I'm gonna double check the inside. Okay, so the text is on this side. And my punch is kind of too big, so I'm just going to do this. Actually, let me see if I can just do this. trying to be careful to only hit the inside. And I'm going around in a circle. And it's not down yet, so I'm basically just going to keep working on this. I'll do it off camera because I want to be really careful to only hit the inside. So I'm going to try to do it at an angle, so if I slip, it'll slip this way. Just remember, I have a master ball joint adapter kit. I got it from Harbor Freight, but you can get it from other brands. So this one fits just enough to clear that that center part, like just by fractions. So I'm gonna use this one because I'm really worried about just slipping and messing up the outside of the bearing or the middle part. So basically I'm just gonna try to keep it centered and just tap in a circle. So I'll just keep working on this. I'm gonna try it this way. So I showed how I drilled a hole through this, and it took like an hour just to drill the hole. So I've got a coupler, the threaded rod, the washer, and I got most of these parts from Home Depot, even this bar. And I used the cutoff wheel to cut it off here and here. So from my ball joint, the master ball joint adapter kit, I used this one because it fits just barely, and this one is on a different kit. This is a wheel bearing replacement kit. I think it's ADT or something like that. So this is gonna fit over. This is gonna fit over the inside of the bearing, and this is gonna fit on top of here. It's a lot of slop, but it's the one that fits the best. The other ones were like too small. And so then I'll put the washer on here and this, and I'll just slowly clamp it down, and I might add some heat to it too. Okay, I tried to center it as perfectly as I could. Hopefully it is, because the clearance between the inner bearing and this adapter is really, really small. So I've got everything centered as I think it should be. And I'm using a wrench here. I'm gonna have to hold this so I can put some leverage on it. It actually looks like this bottom part's spinning, so probably gonna have to put another wrench on it. And I'm gonna, how I know it's working is I'll watch this gap right here that it's going down. So I'll just keep doing that, and hopefully this setup works. Okay, so I've got the wrench here. And it actually might be already bottomed out. Because it kind of doesn't want to go anymore. And I didn't put too much pressure on it because I don't want to over tighten this. Okay, actually. Then we gotta loosen this. I still see a small gap, so I'm going to try it again. Alright, this is kind of important here, because here's the old part, and it was overheated and it was damaged with the third clutch. Well, here's the new part, and I picked A because there's A, B, C, and D. I have no idea which one to pick. And actually, they all were revised to the same size, so hopefully this is it. But right off the bat, what I do notice is, well, first of all, I can't even find the letter on here, so yeah, I don't even have a clue what letter this was. It looked like it probably was right there. That doesn't even look like an A, or maybe it's, I don't know. Anyways, off the bat, what's really obvious is the channels on the new one look wider, and you see this groove right here, it's wider than the old one. So hopefully that's really important, because this thing was overheated, so I'm guessing this is a fluid channel, and that groove helps capture some of the oil also. So I'm really hoping that this improves the oil lubrication. And then I'm also gonna do the check on the latest software for the TCM transmission, or PCM, the powertrain control module. It controls the engine and transmission. I'm gonna figure out which one's the latest one, or which box part number or PCM part number is the latest one, because that one probably has the latest software. And then I'll try to get it programmed or updated at the dealership, because they're the only ones who can do it, because it has to match with your transponder key. Here's another look at the updated part. Let's see if I can focus on it. It's not focusing. But okay, there we go. The updated part, this one, has a bigger hole basically. Because here's the original hole, and the new hole is like twice as big. So that's really good. Alright, I'm pretty sure I already said this, but this is extremely important. The reason why that return spring deformed and it got squished down and it ground everything up was, I'm pretty sure a big part of it was the lack of lubrication. So here's the original one. And these channels right here, they're fairly small. And so the new one, and this is a selective part, meaning you can select A, B, C, or D, and all the 4 parts are discontinued, so they replace each one of them with an updated part. So the old one is 8.5 millimeter, and the new one, this one, is 8.6 millimeters, which I think is the thickness. But what's really important is this channel right here, all these channels, They're like 3 times bigger. If you can see how big that one is compared to the old one, the hole's like 3 times bigger. Plus, also, this groove right here, I think it's to help retain some of the oil underneath the bearing, because there's a needle bearing that spins around here. So I think that, well, see, here's this groove, and then look at this groove for the old one. It's like 3 times bigger or wider. So I think this is extremely important when you rebuild this. No matter what condition this old one is, this one's pretty messed up. Even if it's not, just replace it with the new updated version. So here's the third clutch piston. Like I said way earlier in the video, the return spring spun and it ground everything down, destroyed this. So just don't forget, this is the part for the O-ring. So just take the O-ring and put it on the outside. It goes into this channel right here. Right there. So I've got the O-ring on, and before we put it in here, in order to not get this thing bound up, we're going to lubricate it with ATF. And then I'm also going to lubricate inside here where it goes in. Because it's going to push down on here, on this wall, this bottom wall. And just to be extra safe, I'll get all these things, these splines right here, because these splines, they mate up with I believe it's the plates, the metal plates. I think the way you're supposed to do it is spin this. I think that's down. I'll probably take this out and check it and try to put it back in. Alright, that O-ring that I was trying to show, I thought it actually went into this this groove right here, but that's wrong because the circlip goes there, and that's what keeps the retaining cap on. So I believe this O-ring actually goes here. That's why it seemed too big for this groove here. So it must go on right there. And that makes sense because it seals the piston from this shaft for the guide. Okay, so here's a new spring ring for the third clutch, and see this groove right here, that's where it goes into, and this is the valve right here. So it goes on just like that. Right, here's the part number for the third clutch plates, also known as steels. And you can see this one's really shiny, so I know that this is the updated version. The inferior old version had number 400 sanding and it was too rough, and this I'm assuming is number 600 sanding and then 2 more steps of 600 cork. So looks like this one did get fixed. And so for third clutch, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 plates here. And the only thing, and this may seem anal, but I'm gonna be as thorough as I can. So you can see here, this is where they stamped it. So this is the top, and how you can tell is, see how it's rounded there, and on the bottom it's a lot flatter. Let's see if I can focus on that. So basically, one side's going to be flatter than the other. And this is the smoother side. So just make sure that you have them all the same direction for this, not only for the steels, but also I'm using the aftermarket Raybestos GPX frictions. And so these also should have a stamp. Or I mean, these should be stamped, so one side should be more rounded and the other side should be more flat. And so basically, one way is probably, you see it says Raybestos here. Kind of hard to see, but it's there. It says Raybestos, so one side has printing, it's got lettering. This has some numbers that I can't even, it's hard to tell. I think it says made in USA. So one side's got the lettering, and that might help you figure out which side's the smooth side, which side's the flat side. Actually, it's really hard to tell. I mean, this side might be the smooth side. This actually looks like the flat side. But basically just try to figure out which side's which and try to match it up with the plates. So these are called discs and these are called plates. So after I use brake cleaner and a paper towel to clean these, I put it in a gallon Ziploc bag, and then I try to clean off any pieces of paper towel that's on it. And then I shook it off. And so the first piece that goes on here is going to be the first plate. So I chose one that's kind of scratched up. Not really bad, but I'm going to use this one. And the smooth side's going to face outwards here. And the flat side's going to face down. So you can see that it splines up with these teeth here. So I'll put the first first one down, and we already put the spring in. Right, this spring right here. So here's the first plate. Okay, so on this one, you would think that the side that's got printed text should be the smooth side, but it's not. It's really hard to tell, but you can just barely tell that this is the flat side, and this, I'm guessing, is the smooth side. And how I was able to guess is I put it on one of the plates, and I pushed down on this side, and then I try to push down on here. And there's only the slightest bit of gap. But when I put it over, when I flip it over, and this is the smooth side, and this is the flat side, so they're opposite sides. And so when I push down here, I can see it's probably just my mind playing tricks, but it feels like there's just the tiniest bit more gap here. But however you determine it, I would see which side lays flatter on this plate, and then whatever side you decide, make sure all the lettering is facing the same direction. Alright, so I put in this bag and I try to clean off anything that might be on it. So I'm going with printed side down. And the discs, also called frictions, they're not lined up with anything yet until you put the gear down, because the gear is splined and it locks in here. So make sure that all these all the splines for the discs line up the same way. So next is a plate. And smooth side for the plates are gonna go out this way. Alright, so I've got the last friction on, and the last part, which is actually the hardest part, is you have to pick an end plate, and the end plate is where the giant circlip goes on. And how you pick it is, well, here's the old one that got destroyed. This is the one that got destroyed, and there actually is a 9 on here. And what that means for the third clutch is this is 2.9 millimeters, and I got the same one, 2.9 millimeters, because there's a 9 there. And that number isn't arbitrary. What you do is you have to assemble everything, and since you have the old one, you put the old one back on, and then you put the circlip on, and then you take what you're measuring for is the slop in how much slack this thing has. And so how I did it was I used this, and what I did was the maximum you can put this on is where the circlip is. So you have to rest it on the circlip, and then you rest the end of this caliper on the circlip, and then you go down until it hits the bottom of, I believe it's this, till it hits this, and then you also have to subtract the thickness of the circlip. So you have to measure the circlip and subtract that thickness. And whatever that measurement is, that's your slop. And you'll have to look up on the repair manual what the limits are. It'll tell you, and then that's how you can determine what size you need. Like for example, if you have too much slop, you would need something bigger than 2.9 millimeters. You would need like 3 or 3.1 or 3.2. And if you got you have not enough slack, then you would add to it. So you would need something smaller than 2.9. You would need 2.8, 2.7. But the way I understand it, and it's not really explained, is if you have pretty much zero slack after you install the new discs, also called frictions, if you install the new ones and you have zero slack, that's fine. I think that might be how it's supposed to be. But if you install the old discs, what I noticed when I did that was it was right at the limit, somewhere in between there. So it seemed like my old discs were within spec. So when I replaced it with the new ones, there was like almost no slop. And so I'm gonna guess that's okay, and that's probably normal because they're new and they're thicker. So it's kind of complicated, but you'll have to figure that part out. So for me, I know 2.9 is what I need. It gives me pretty much no slop, so I'm gonna lubricate it here. And actually I just need to lubricate one side, so this is kind of stupid. So I'm going to put the end plate on here, and then all I have to do is put on the snap ring, which is this new part. That's the number for it. I think the snap ring is also the same exact one for 4th and 5th clutch, but you'd have to check the diagram. But basically just shove the snap ring on here and then just work it around here and it'll snap into place. And just make sure that it's up against the edge and it's down far enough. Just keep pushing it to double check it. Okay, so here's the snap ring. And just to show you, I tried to line up these discs, the brown ones on the inside, so they're all the same. So when the gear gets put on, it won't bind up. So that's why they all look perfect. And if you can see here, see if I can see that groove. That's where the snap ring goes into. So I'm going to choose the nicest side, and I'm going to put it the nicest side on this side, the bottom side. It doesn't matter. I'm just really that picky. So I started here, and then I'm just going to work it. And it doesn't require that much force. I don't even need a tool. And so you saw it snapped in place. You just check it to make sure it's in the groove. See right there, it's in the groove. So is that one. And just check it all the way around and push it down. And so I don't know if you can tell, but there's almost no slop. There's like maybe 1/3 of a millimeter of slop. That's what it sounds like. So this is ready to go. And I showed you how to get this off with a flathead. Just jam it and hammer it in and then twist it. So basically I'm going to put this in a Ziploc so dust and stuff doesn't get into it while I reassemble everything else. Okay, so you can see how much the spring sticks out, and this cap goes on top, and then this circlip goes into the top lip of here. And the problem is unless you're super strong, you can't get this on by yourself. So I'm going to show you the tool that I made that you can make too to push this in, or you can buy a tool on eBay or Amazon. Okay, so one of these is from eBay and one of them came directly out of the package from Honda. The difference between these that I can tell is the eBay one seems just a little bit softer. I can push this down a little bit easier than this one. So this one's stiffer, and this actually sits a little bit more stable. This one wobbles just a little bit more. But why I'm going to go with this one is I noticed that it's hard to tell on camera, but there might just be, see, this one seems like a darker color, but basically I'm going to go with the stiffer one because it came from the package, and I'm thinking maybe they redesigned it that way just to be a little bit stiffer, because what this return spring does is it disengages the pack, the plates from the disc. So maybe having a little bit stronger return spring to disengage the disc and plates is gonna help make these last longer. Because maybe the slightly weaker one, they were still together a little bit and it was wearing it out faster. So I'm going to go with this little bit stiffer one that came from the actual OEM package. Oh, also, this one's slightly taller than the eBay one, so that might be part of the design change.